everybody, how are you today? I hope that you in a good health and a good condition and happy. Everybody, have you ever read about Sang Kuryang or story about mouse, deer and crocodile or even you ever watch Cinderella movie? Yes, it is about narrative text. So, today we are going to learn what is narrative text, what is the social function, the kinds of narrative text, the generic structure, and of course the language feature with many activities there. See you together. Check it out. Hi everybody. This is Mr. Steve. Are you ready for learning today? Now let's listen to the discussion from Andre, Mira, and Ratri. Andre, Mira, and Ratri are students of grade 11 senior high school. They are discussing the elements of narrative text while waiting for the class to begin.
Hey guys, we're learning about narrative text today, right? I'm still trying to get a clear idea of what that actually is.
Yeah, we are. I looked it up last night. A narrative text is basically a story. It's a type of text that tells us about an imaginative story in a structured way, with characters, settings, and a plot. Exactly. It's meant to entertain or inform readers through storytelling. Like, when we read fairy tales or fables, those are narrative texts. The main goal is to entertain, but sometimes they also teach a lesson or share a moral.
Oh, I see. So it's like the stories we've read before, but with a particular structure. What's the structure like?
The structure is pretty simple. It's called the generic structure. It starts with an orientation. That's where the characters, setting, and time are introduced. Then comes the complication, which is the problem or conflict in the story. After that, there's the resolution, where the problem is solved. Sometimes, there's also a reorientation at the end, where the story wraps up or gives a moral.
Oh, I get it now. So orientation is like when the story begins and introduces everything, and the complication is the problem. Then, resolution is when
Exactly. That's how it flows. And narrative texts usually follow that structure. Now, the language features are interesting too. You'll notice that narratives use the past tense most of the time, because they talk about things that have already happened. Yeah, they also use action verbs, like ran, jumped, or fought, because the characters are always doing something. And there's a lot of descriptive language too. You know, to describe characters or places, like a beautiful princess or a dark, gloomy forest.
Oh, that makes sense. So, to summarize, the text is in past tense, full of action verbs, and it describes things in detail?
Exactly. And don't forget the use of dialogues and narratives. Characters often talk to each other, which makes the story more lively.
Cool. But I'm a bit confused with the types of narrative texts. Are they all the same, like stories?
Well, there are different kinds of narrative texts. For example, fables are short stories with animals as characters, and they usually teach a moral lesson. You know, like the tortoise and the hare. And then you have legends, which are stories that might be based on real people or events but have been exaggerated over time. For example, the story of Sang Kuryang in Indonesian culture. People say it's based on a real event, but it's become more like a legend.
Oh, like how folklore is also based on traditional stories passed down over generations. Aren't there also myths, like stories about gods and heroes?
Exactly. Myths are usually about gods, supernatural beings, or the creation of the world. Think of Greek myths like the story of Hercules or Prometheus. Yeah, myths often explain natural phenomena or cultural beliefs. So, as you can see, all these different types of narrative texts are meant to entertain, inform, or even explain something.
Wow, that's actually pretty interesting. So, fables, legends, folklore, and myths are all different types of narrative texts, but they all tell stories in some way.
Exactly, and they all follow the same structure: orientation, complication, and resolution. I'm actually excited for today's class. I think we're going to read some examples of these, maybe even write our own narratives.
That would be fun. I feel like I have a much better understanding of what narrative text is now. Thanks for explaining it, guys.
The definition of narrative text is an imaginative story to amuse the readers. Sometimes it has moral value. Jadi, pengertian dari naratif teks itu adalah sebuah cerita berhasil dari imajinasi yang biasanya untuk menghibur pembaca. Ya, dalam beberapa hal ini mempunyai nilai moral. Now let's check the function of narrative text. It is to amuse and to give moral learning to the society. Now let's check the generic structure of narrative text. Come on! Yay, everybody! The generic structure of a narrative text usually consists of three elements here. The first is orientation, the second is complication, and the third is resolution. So this is the explanation. Orientation itu lebih pada pengenalan tokoh, waktu, dan tempat terjadinya peristiwa di dalam cerita. Lalu yang kedua, complication. Complication is a problem, conflict in the story. Ya. Dan baru yang ketiga, ya, it is resolution. Resolution means ya the resolution of the problem atau penyelesaian masalah. Jadi selalu ada strukturnya yaitu orientasi, komplikasi, dan resolusi. Nah, tadi juga sudah kita dengarkan bersama di dalam dialog ya tentang language features dari narrative text. Apa aja? Yuk kita simak ulang. Ciri kebahasaan yaitu yang pertama menggunakan nouns tertentu sebagai kata ganti orang, hewan, dan benda tertentu dalam cerita. Misalnya stepsister, housework, dan sebagainya. Yang kedua, adjektif yang membentuk noun phrase. Misalkan long black hair, two red apples. Lalu ada juga time connectives dan conjunctions untuk mengurutkan kejadian-kejadian. Misalnya then, before that, soon, dan sebagainya. Dan juga yang ketiga, adverbs dan adverbial phrases untuk menunjukkan lokasi kejadian atau peristiwa. Misalnya here, in the mountain, happily ever after. Lalu ada juga action verbs. Dalam hal ini adalah menggunakan past tense. Nah, yang terakhir adalah saying verbs yang menandai ucapan seperti said, told, promise, dan thinking verb yang menandai pikiran, persepsi, atau perasaan seperti thought, understand, felt, dan sebagainya. Yay! Congratulations for you all that we already learned together about narrative text. We learn from the discussion and then we learn from the generic structure, the social function, and about the language feature. Yeah, keep learning everybody and we will continue our learning in narrative text. It is about the examples of narrative text and then we also will do some exercise about narrative text in the next video. So, check always Cakrawala Guru channel ya. Dicek terus. Tetap sehat, tetap semangat. Sampai jumpa.